There's our countdown. Can y'all see the countdown? Okay.
Yes.
Amazing. Okay. All right. So we are here. My camera is not there. I am. All right. So welcome everybody. Welcome to BSPN's second YouTube live. Right. This is our second one. And this week we have grad students. We're talking all things graduate school. We have our lovely panelists here today, and I'll let them introduce themselves in a second. But before we do begin, my name is Dr. Krista Edwards, and I am a co founder and director of programming and community outreach for the Black School Psychologists Network. And just a reminder for people who don't know what BSPN is, we're founded psychologists who saw a need to develop and co-create our own space. And so this past year, we had our first annual Black School Psych Summit, where we hosted over 500 Black school psychologists in one space. There was a lot of healing that occurred. It was a big homecoming. So we'll talk a little bit more about our second annual summit at the end, but this is a group that you don't want to miss out on. You want to make sure that you're watching the lives. Follow us on all social media platforms at the Black SPS. And if you don't see this live as it's currently, being recorded, you can always come back to YouTube and watch this one and the other ones as well. So now I'm gonna switch gears a little bit to my panelists. So I will let Zion, why don't you go first and introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. My name is Zion Kamau. I am a third year, first generation doctoral student at Mississippi State. And I guess I'll pass it to Jhanelle.
Hey everybody, my name is Jhanelle Adams. I am fifth year doctoral student at Georgia State. I am a wife of 8 years. I have 2 kids, and I'm excited to be here. So I'm gonna pass it to Alanis.
Hey everybody, my name is Alanis De La Cruz. I'm a fourth year doctoral candidate at The Ohio State University, and I am, what is an interesting fact? Afro Latina from Puerto Rico, and my parents are from the Dominican Republic. So yeah.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kendell. I'm a third year PhD student at Texas Women's University, and I am also the BSPN graduate student leader.
Amazing. Well, I'm really, really excited to have you all in this space. And we have a few questions that we're going to get into. But first, you all, I want to do a mental check-in. There's a lot happening in the world. Graduate school as it is already very hard and difficult, and not even for coursework reasons, but navigating a lot of what comes with being a graduate student, right? I just finished my program in this summer, so I am in and see how are you all doing mentally. Yeah, feel free to like hop in.
I guess I'll start. So I am currently in my stressful season. So I recently just finished Master Com, so my Master Comprehensive exam. I passed, so I'm very excited about that. But now I am going into my season of studying for the Praxis 5403. So I'm feeling grateful, but I'm also feeling like a smidge stressed right about now.
I can definitely hop on that. I'm doing APIC still, just the finishing touches, of course. Also, I'm trying to finish my 3 chapters as well as IRB before I go back home. So it's going back home is like the motivation, but also like it's still stressful season to get all those things done.
I'll go next, man. I feel like there is a lot on my plate. I'm doing okay, but I mean, right now this is my dissertation year, so I have comps, a dissertation coming up. On quite a few committees that require a lot of work from between NAS and then my state committee. And then, of course, to top it all off, just being a wife and being a mom of two young kids. My girls are 3 and 1. So it's just a lot to balance between school and working and home life. But I think overall, I feel like, when you see ducks and they're like gliding, they're smooth on top, but their little feet are like moving underneath. That's the animal I would use to describe me right now.
I'm doing pretty good right now. My classes are kind of light this semester, so I'm mainly doing research. And if that's like a glimpse of what post grad life will be for me, I'm pretty excited about it. So I'm feeling pretty good.
Yeah, so thank y'all for sharing. I appreciate that. I know for me it's been a heavy week. Like I said, there's so much happening in the world, but also just being a new school psychologist and balancing a different type of work schedule. And you all will feel a little bit of that when you're on internship too, right? You're no longer have as much flexibility with your schedule. It's like you're back working a full-time job in a different type of realm, right? So this weekend, I'm going to make sure I take myself to dinner and take care of myself. That's what I'm doing for me. So this is just a big key for everyone. Just kind of do what you need to do for yourself this weekend. Do something nice for yourself this weekend, right? Because we all deserve it. Thank you for sharing. So let's just hop into the first question. So the first question is, can you all just share a little bit about your personal journey and insights from your application process to applying to like that school psych program? And also, so it's a two-part. Also share if you have any like recommendations for students who are interested in pursuing a graduate degree in school psychology. Not everybody all at once.
I can start. So my process was interesting. Back home, I studied at Universidad de Puerto Rico, Rio Piedras campus. So I at first wanted to do clinical psych. My motivation for clinical psych was just suicidal prevention in the schools. I have friends in high school who had suicidal ideation, and I felt like my school didn't have the help that they needed. So I said I put it as my job to like look for ways I can help them. So I like Googled, and what I found out was clinical psychology. I really didn't know that much of school psychology, but one of my mentors back in Puerto Rico, he mentioned, like, I told him what I wanted to do. I wanted to work with the children in the schools and also mental health. And he's like, "Have you thought about school psychology?" And I'm like, I've never heard this before, but it might as well. Let me just Google on that. So I Googled on that. I felt in love. Like we have so many hats that I was like, hey, I really like school psychology. So I applied to like 3 schools, all focused on that suicidal prevention. And I had the opportunity to go to the Ohio State for a summer research program in 2017. And I was like, oh, that's right. I work with at OSU. Let me look at the school psychology department. And I fell in love. I saw Dr. Miranda's research focus, and I was like, social justice, I'm really into this. Then I saw Dr. Radler's focus, and I'm like, oh, school, mental health, social justice, and all that. And also all of the others, Dr. Graves, Dr. Joseph. And I just saw just a lot of Black women, a lot of my a lot of like it was very, at least the ones when I was starting, it was very woman, a lot of women, yeah. But I was like, okay, I want this, I want to go here. So I applied. It was a difficult process, at least for me, because I don't think of myself as a good writer in English. But I proved myself wrong in that sense because I'm here,
I know
thankfully.
that's right.
Thankfully, and I'm really honored for that. So I guess a good recommendation would be, at least if you're not an English native speaker, have your friends help you out in that application, like friends that you know that are good English speakers and can proofread your stuff. That would be amazing. If you also have like mentors, like research mentors or like professors, that would also would be amazing. And also, I guess just like try to talk it out as well with friends and professors to be like, yes, I'm nervous, but like to get that motivation to keep going. So I guess that would be my input on that. So yeah.
Thanks for sharing. I'm so glad that you're bringing that perspective here, because that often gets overlooked, right? Even at this stage in your graduate experience, right? You've done your undergrad, you've gotten past all of these milestones, but that doesn't mean that you still don't need help in certain aspects, right? And leaning heavily into your friend circle is so important. It's so important. Thanks for bringing that up. Zion, what about you? I'm gonna start calling on people. All right, we about to get.
I started,
now,
but then
y'all.
you went in.
Okay. So
Go ahead.
You good.
Okay, so similarly, I was interested in clinical psych, and I actually was one of the vice presidents. So in undergrad, I was a vice president for Psychi, which was just the honor society for psychology. So we did this week of like showcasing psychology, different professionals in the field of psych, and my president actually got Dr. Hayes from Commerce to come. And so he spoke about school psychology. And that was my first time ever introduced to it. And I immediately dropped the thought of clinical psych. And I just went forward with school psychology. I fell in love with it. As far as my application process, I initially applied to EDS programs. The application process, I would say, would be similar to what I experienced as an undergraduate applicant. I applied to 8 different school psychology programs and accepted interviews at 6. I would say the most notable aspects of the process would be that some of the logistics for admission requirements, and then also just preparing for the interviews. As far as the logistics for admission requirements, each university had pretty similar admission requirements with a few unique ones here, but typically the similar ones were like you need to upload a letter of intent, personal statement, 3 to 4 letter of recommendations, send us a copy of your transcript, things like that. I would say that I would recommend applicants to become very familiar with going through that process and fulfilling those admission requirements, because I found myself in a position to have a lot of hidden fees. So especially when it comes with the transcript and then some of those unique requirements, like for example, I had to undergo 3 background checks. So for my undergraduate university, I think it was like $25 to $35 per transcript that I sent. So for 8 universities, that was a lot. And then I think the background checks range from like $70 to $250. So I was grateful to have the support of my parents and to also be working at the time. But just those fees on top of the traditional fees, so that application fee, the testing fee, made that quite an expensive process for me. And then as far as the interview, I think that was causing a bit of stress for me. So I found myself practicing. So that would be my recommendation, is to just rehearse practice questions related to school psychology and just being in a graduate program, period. I rehearse questions along the lines of, why would you want to pursue a graduate program? Why would you want to pursue a career in school psychology? To like, how do you cope with stress?
Yeah. I was going to ask you, what are those questions that we need to let our audience know? Because we do have a lot of people in our audience who may be watching who are interested in the field. We even had some undergrads attend the summit last year, so
Oh, wow.
yeah, exactly. So even sharing some of those questions that, that you used to kind of rehearse, that you thought you might be asked during interviews is really important. So thanks for sharing that.
Okay.
I'll say journey into school psychology was kind of roundabout. So prior to entering the field, I was working full time. My background in data and statistics. So I was talking to another like executive director where I worked in the school district in which I worked. And I was telling her, you know, she knows about my background. She knows I love data, but she also knew that I really wanted to work with kids and work in like counseling, psych services, and that sort of thing. And I was like, man, I wish I could find a job things together. And she's like, have you heard of school psychology? And I'm like, no, I haven't. So I think there's a common trend about just sharing your story, just sharing the field. It seems very like passed down. You know, it's not like when you do the career inventories and you're like, okay, lawyer, doctor, school psychologist. It's really important for us to talk about the field and share what it is that we do. So that was really great. So I applied. I only applied to one university. So I don't know if this is what I would recommend. I went on a faith tip. For me, I was like, I prayed and I was like, God, you're giving me this vision of all the things that, you know, I could accomplish. If you're giving me vision, then you need to give me provision too. So I'm applying to this one place because my family is here. I'm rooted here. And I'm soon. So if it was Georgia State or bust for me. So I applied. It went great. I would say that besides that piece, my recommendations would be really researching the university. I was in love with Georgia State's program, the curriculum, what they were, you know, what the professors were researching and how I would be able to meaningfully contribute to what their agendas were and a space that, you know, I could also pursue my own interests. I think just like job interviews, you know, you're interviewing them as much as they're interviewing you. I know sometimes we come in and it feels like you're the student and there's definitely a power hierarchy, but you want to make sure that it fits your needs as well. And so a lot of people gave me tips, especially coming in wanting to be in the doctoral program about things I shouldn't say that would knock me off. And I was like, I'm coming in to be my authentic self. So this is what I bring to the table. And I was not going to censor that in hopes that I, you know, would get like points knocked off. So I would say like, be true to yourself and be honest about what you need, communicate what those needs are, because you want it to be a mutually beneficial relationship.
Yeah, facts. You made such a good point too about just like how we all kind of learned about the field. Cause I have a very similar story too. Like I had a PI that I was doing. I was a research assistant at Johns Hopkins University, and my PI there was like, "Have you thought about school psych?" And I was like, I don't even know what that is." Like I had no idea what school psych was. I was 2 years post undergrad, right? I just worked really well with kids and I needed some money. So, you know, it's happenstance sometimes, right? But like we're all here and we're supposed to be here. But that's also why it's so powerful for us to really talk about what we do, especially with kids and youth and even other like adults who are in like career changing processes, right? To tell them about the field, because let's keep it real, like it's really white and we need to like fix that, right? So Kendell, how about you?
Yeah, Byron McClure. That's who introduced me to the field. We went to church together, and I was graduating undergrad. I didn't know what I wanted to do. He kept talking to me about the school psych. I was like, I'm not interested. I don't know what you're talking about. But I shadowed him, and so I have that on my list of things to do. If you can, find a school psychologist to shadow. Go follow them for a day or two. See what they do on a day-to-day basis. I followed him, and he did have a unique role in his school, but I loved what he did. And I was like, this is what I want to do. So within my list, wrote a list down. Some things were already said. Connect with a current faculty member and a current student, if possible, in the program. You want to find out as much as you can, and you can only find out so much looking at the school's website. Connect to a faculty member, email them, hey, I'm interested in your program. I want to meet and talk to them. But just like Jhanelle said, you're interviewing them just as they're interviewing you. So ask all the questions and be yourself. You want to be authentic in your interview. We can all interview well, but you don't want to trick yourself because you'll get into a space to where you weren't supposed to be there. And so be authentic in that process. As I think Jhanelle also said, apply to multiple universities. You want to have as many options as possible. If nobody knows anything about your program, school psychology is a small field. If the program is not reputable, meaning that nobody knows what they got going on at that school, it's probably not a good school. Okay, you want to know somebody that knows something about the program and figure out what that is. Mock interviews, as Zion said, practice your interview so you can be confident when you're going in. You know, it can be kind of nerve wracking getting into rooms with different people. Practice that going in. And questions like what kind of questions? That leads to my last point. Use BSPN resources. The graduate student group, we have plenty of graduate students who are more than willing to connect with you to do mock interviews, tell you what kind of questions. We've been through this before and we are more than willing to help.
Those are all really great tips. Thank y'all so much for sharing. So
Wait,
I'm gonna
Dr. Edwards, before you move on, can I say one more thing?
Absolutely. Yeah.
The last thing I want to say, because this was a big part of my interview day, I felt like I was comparing myself to everybody that was there. And I did have a little bit of doubt. I was like, man, that person's doing all this. They have all this experience. Oh man, that person did all this research. Oh, and I was just like, I got into my head a little bit on interview day. And so the only thing I wanted to say was just know that you were selected. This was not luck as to why you're there, and you deserve to be there. That's your space, and to own your space. Everyone that's there has done something great, no doubt, but what you have accomplished is also great. So just to trust that as you go into your interviews and wherever you end up, let that continue to lead you and not compare yourselves to what everybody else.
Yeah, thank you for adding that, Jhanelle. That's amazing. That's amazing advice too, because we so often, right, have imposter syndrome and it doesn't go away. It doesn't. Like you're gonna get that degree and get in spaces where you're gonna feel like, am I supposed to be here? And you have a whole PhD, okay? Trust me, like I know what that feels like, okay? But it really is about like reminding yourself like you are supposed to be here. You were selected for an interview. And another thing is if you don't get into this whatever university, that doesn't always mean there's something wrong with you, right? I had a lot of rejections the first to graduate school. So I had a mentor who told me, you know, most of the times it's not even you, it's politics, right? Like, can these advisors even take a certain amount of advisees? Maybe they didn't have the funding. Maybe they like had a student who was already doing their master's in that program, right? Like, maybe, you know, there's a lot of different things that if you do not get in, right, to a specific school that you don't know about. And so trying your best to recognize that it's well to internalize it, right? Right? Like more than that, like be authentic and like it's not a great feeling. But also know that there's likely more to that rejected redirection than you actually are aware of, right? So, okay. So now I'm going to switch gears and ask y'all, speaking of money, we talked a little bit about how much applications cost, how much, you know, you got hidden fees and background checks. That was new for me. I know about. I'm going to ask y'all, if y'all had, what's your $15 meal that you would go to in graduate school? Say you got $15, you got to eat. What y'all finna cook? What y'all finna eat? Where y'all finna go buy some food from? Some of y'all are in cities where you could just go and get some food for $15. Some of us, not so much.
So near one of the buildings that I worked at, there's a Qdoba. And I always got like the kids meal. For me, a lot of rice like gets me going. Like I'm Caribbean, I love rice. That's gonna be my
Y'all
favorite
still
meal all
thinking?
the time. So I just like I would get like the kids bowl. for $5-6. Put a lot of like beans and like meat, and that sustained me for like 4 hours. So like, and then you have $10 you can use for another thing, and then you just budget that. So yeah.
I know colleagues are watching. If I didn't say Chick-fil-A, they would say you're capping on this YouTube. So I'm gonna go ahead and say Chick-fil-A. I'm gonna get a 3-count chicken strip with a lemonade and light ice.
For me, it's Subway. So I love Subway, and well, I go through stints where I love Subway for probably about a month straight. But typically, they have this code like buy one foot long, get one 50% off, and I think it comes to right around like $14-15. So that's what I would do.
I probably have to say Chick-fil-A too. I feel like Chick-fil-A is on every college campus. So it's like the go-to. I probably get a Cobb salad. That's probably my go-to.
Okay, Chick-fil-A is actually really fire, so that's understandable. I think for me, it would have been the $5 Domino's carry-out pepperoni pizza. Then I would have had a little bit of money to give me a soda. Which I'm not even sure if it's $5 anymore, unfortunately. Everything's going up.
It's $7, I think. $7.99. Yeah.
You already know which one I'm talking about, right? Okay. So, well, thank y'all for sharing. Those are also good tips because sometimes we be hungry, we don't have no money. So, thank you. All right. So, the next question is thinking about your graduate school experience, right? How can we foster like a sense of community among our peers?
I would start off with my peers. So I'm lucky and I feel like a sense of privilege to experience community with my peers. I would say what has fostered it is just feeling like we have a safe space within each other, just to share our experiences, whether it's academic or non academic. And I actually, to think about it, what fuels that, I would think, would be respecting each other's boundaries and feelings because we are on the same, who I'm thinking of in particular, we are in the same cohort. So we're experiencing a lot of the same milestones at the same time. And for example, master comps, we all went through that together. We all got our results at the same time. And just waiting for each other to come out and say whether we passed or not, rather than being like, girl, you passed. And I think also just maintaining a balance within our communication for academics and non-academic stuff because grad school can be a stressful time. A lot of us will half of us, no, a lot of us, majority, we are coming out of state. So I think just like homesickness and things like that can just bring a lot of stress. So trying to keep our conversations positive with each other. But also knowing that we could talk to each other if we feel like something really stressful is going on or we need to vent.
Created a group on our at Georgia State where we talk in that group, and we're still building it because it's still relatively new, but we talk in that group. We try to uplift each other in that group. It also serves as an informal consultation, but most of all, we just try to get together outside of campus. Now it's been a minute since that's happened. I'm calling people out if they're watching, but really, we do we do like to try and do things non-school psych related, because we want to be more than just colleagues and people we can call if we have a difficult case. We're trying to build friendships and really meaningful relationships. So we're still in the process of that. I won't say that we're like there, we've arrived, but we're really making efforts towards just being there for each other and supporting each other.
For me, my program, one of the students, she's in her 5th year now in internship. She created a group to like go to bonfires, all the Black
Those are
students, and
really
just
good.
feel.
Those are really good suggestions. I do think, even Kendall, your development and creation of the Black student school psych support groups are really powerful. Like, students have already indicated they feel a sense. One of the few, or if not the only, maybe Black student, right, in our cohorts or in our programs. And so to really just get connected and feel a sense of belonging is actually really, really important. And it really does affect like just how like our wellness throughout our studies and really just like our completion, right? There's so many people who don't even finish because it's just really tough for them and they don't really have that sense of community, that community amongst peers. And so, they don't finish. And that's really a protective factor. So I'm really happy that like now we like have spaces, right? And we're working on developing more spaces for us to feel a sense of community. So does anyone else have anything to add to that?
Alanis, where you gonna go?
I just didn't know because I like talked, but I don't know if you guys could hear me. So I was like, let me not talk because I don't know what's happening. So I don't know. Can you guys hear me? Yeah. Okay. Thank
Yeah,
you.
we can hear. It's just a
My
little
bad.
lag, I think, for everybody.
Okay. Okay, let me know if anything like thumbs up or something. I guess in my program, one of like the 4th year students has done like a bonfire for the Black students, so that's been really affirming to see. And it's between cohorts, so you see like students from other levels that you can talk to and like navigate grad school with, and also our SAS program has done outdoor activities where I like meet other students from like at least in those activities I've met a lot of 1st years that I've engaged with and just made community with them. So that has been very nice.
So as stated before, BSPN, we have a graduate student support group. So that helps bridge the gap, between those who don't really have um, a lot of people who look like them around them in their program. We're also having a really good time in the school psych space. We have BSPN, School Psych Sisters. The Black men just created Group Me, which is really, really fruitful. And specifically for the black men in the field. It's not a lot of us, but we're real strong. One of the things that my director at Bowie State did when I was interviewing there was she connected me with Charles Barrett. So just coming into the field, being connected with Byron McClure, Charles Barrett, and just other key Black men in the field just really helped me. So um, although our community is small, it's strong. So I recommend just reaching out. You never know who's going to respond. Most people do. Most people are really receptive and personable. So I say reach out.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, so kind of like just moving on just a little bit. Um, I want you all to talk a little bit about your research interests and how you see like your research interests really affecting the field as school psychology. Like, what are your visions? Your staff, what have you. So now I'm giving you a few minutes to do your research spill, okay? And this is practice too, right? Because you'll have to tell this to a lot of people. You probably already talked to a lot of people about your research. So I'm really excited to hear it too, because I haven't heard it.
I don't mind starting this one off. Okay, so well, I'm going to start with a celebration. So I just got my first publication in August for my pre-dissertation, and it is around the perceptions of school climate for Black girls with and without disabilities, and that will also be my dissertation. I am truly interested in that topic because when I first started grad school at Georgia State, in my intro to school psych class, we did a whole spiel where we were comparing peer-reviewed journals in school psych, school counseling, and counseling psychology. And what became obvious to me was that there was very little research for us, by us, that included us, that were normed based on us, that had our experiences in there. And I was like, oh, this is exactly what I want to do. I want to amplify our voices and our experiences in the field. So every chance I got, even if it was just for a class paper, I would research, I'd make every topic about Black girls. And that's what I'm doing now with my dissertation. I'm going to be doing a whole quantitative study again, looking at their perceptions. And then the part that I'm most interested and most excited about is we're going to get to interview our girls and really, find themes across, their experiences and center their stories and really try to come from a more strengths-based perspective and like what is going well and how can we use those experiences and scale them up. Like it is not all bad, and or try to compare our experiences relative to other demographic groups. Like our experiences are our experiences, and what does it truly mean to center that and not to just have that in comparison to somebody else. So I'm really excited. We have a group of us that are working on it. My professor, Dr. LaSalle Finley, who's a trailblazer in school climate and all of this work, like she's been amazing, my advisor. So part 2 is coming is what I'm trying to say. So y'all look out for that. Plug.
I can go next. Let me know if you guys can hear me. Sure. Yeah. Okay. So I've had the privilege to volunteer in several research papers on like Black girls. And in my own like agenda, I've been looking at research on Latinos. So I was looking at how like homogeneous both have been. So like they put all Latinos like very like I don't know, they just put them all together here, at least in the research that I've read in the United States. And I've seen how when talking about Black girls and like Black research, I've seen it mostly on African American girls. And I didn't see myself as an Afro Latina in the research. So I was like, something's kind of off for me at least. I would have liked a more heterogeneous look on it. So I took it to myself to like research on that. So right now my dissertation is looking at sense of belonging in immigrant Afro Latina girls, just because there's research out there that talks about it talks about certain mental health issues with depression and anxiety, and that racial dissonance of being Black but also being Latino and not fitting in both spaces. So I just wanted to like look more into that, look deeper on that, and I want to co-create a curriculum with the girls to see how, as school psychologists, we can help on that with SEL interventions. Like, what as a school psychologist can I give you to create a better sense of belonging in the school that you're in, and also foster a better sense of mental health? So right now I'm in that process. It's been interesting because there's not a lot of school psych specific information on Afro Latina girls. So I'm looking at other spaces that have that information and just looking at it in a K to 12 setting, because most of the information on Afro Latinas has been on higher education. And I really want to dig deep in the K to 12 setting just because I feel our girls really need us. And you're like knowing yourself in that moment and knowing about your identity. So I just want to foster from little to like when they grow older, they have that sense of belonging and okay, I'm Afro Latina, but I'm here, So yeah.
Okay, so my research interests are in the lines of parental involvement, student health and wellness initiatives, school failure, strengthening family school community partnerships. But right now, in my current research, I have a project and we're towards the end of it, but I am investigating parents and teachers perceptions of the importance of various parental involvement activities, such as like parents attending open houses, parents communicating with teachers on a regular basis, parents providing educational materials at home, and things of that nature, and how that impacts students' academic achievement and behavioral adjustment at school. Based on the results, my professor and I were able to communicate to our school partners how they could strengthen their relationships and their partnerships with families through addressing the similarities and the differences of perceptions, and also aligning it with current literature. So that's what I'm doing right now.
So right now, one of the things that I'm doing is evaluating all accredited or approved, NASA approved programs, looking at their equity or diversity practices. Right now, there's a big push to diversify programs, but we're not really looking at what type of environments that we're funneling these diverse students or students from historically marginalized backgrounds from. So that's what my research is doing currently, or one of my research projects is. And I think that's really important because, where are we sending us to, right? And what type of experiences do we have in these programs? And along those same lines, I'm also looking into Blackness in the field. We are very, very big on diversity and multiculturalism, but I think we need to look at Blackness and anti-Blackness and how to resist some of these, resist and disrupt racist practices that we have in our field. So those are the things that my research looks at.
Well, while we wait for technical difficulties to resolve, the only thing I would like to add is, a lot of this about research. I would say, if you're an EDS student, I would still encourage everyone to be a part of research. Join your faculty member, join a research group, because our voices again are very important, and our experiences are important. So do some research. It will be great. That's a plug.
Can y'all hear me?
Now here you are. You're back.
Okay, can you hear me and see me, or just hear me?
Both. We can hear you and see you.
Okay.
You're a little grainy, but we can see you.
Oh my gosh. You know what? This must be that Canadian Wi-Fi. Okay. So, well, thank y'all for being patient. I'm going to keep going if everyone can. By the way, all of your research is very, very beautiful, and it really falls under the umbrella of liberation psychology, and I love that. It's all liberating and strength based, and really positive for our community. So thank you for doing the work that y'all do, for real. Okay, so the next question is. What strategies have you found effective in navigating and addressing issues related to diversity and inclusion within your graduate program? And how might these strategies be valuable or of use for other Black grad students?
I'm gonna go first on this one.
I was going to say, if Kendell does not go first on this question,
yeah,
I'm going to say Kendell go first.
I'm gonna go ahead and go first. So we started this discussion talking about what to do during the application process. This is a question. Many programs will promote that they are diverse, they have equitable practices. Ask, what stage are you in this process? We know this is a NAS push, and we know that this is like the hot topic thing to say, but what have you done? Like, what is your history with this? So that should be something that you ask before you even get to a program. Therefore, when you get there, you have a basis of what they told you, and now you can hold them up to a standard of what was presented to you while you were being recruited. Tips I would give are to find people who can not only stand with you, but advocate on your behalf. Find a professor that can be in your corner, whether in your program or in the school. There is at least one at your university. Find them and communicate with that person regularly because you're going to need people in your corner. Um, what else? Addressing issues. We are not really big historically in our community about filing reports. If something happens to you, make a paper trail of it. Write it down, um, get things written to you so you have it on record, but also have your own report and write reports. If you are discriminated against, if there is a racist action, report it. Put it down on paper and send it through the proper channels. Whether something happens or it doesn't, you need to be able to have a trail of what is happening to you. And I guess that leads into my last point. Don't be silent about whatever happens to you. Speak up and always be in communication with people who can help you. That includes BSPN. Somebody will be able to support you in your situation. Never feel like you're alone, and always know that you have resources that you can go to.
Kendell, ladies and gentlemen.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said. Thank you so much.
I want to pick up on Kendall's last point as my first point about not being silent. I am a very big proponent of using your voice and amplifying your voice. And, or you might be at the stage where you're finding your voice. Again, I said this earlier. I think sometimes as students, we think that we don't have a voice or our voices are muted because our professors are in this hierarchical position. Um, but there's power in your voice. I think if we learn a lot in consultation about how to repair ruptures. And even in our schools, we may do restorative justice circles. We do all of these things that we're telling others to do, but we have to be able to embody those practices first. If there's a rupture in your program with a professor or with a colleague, go to them. You might not be able to do it in the moment. You may need to process what's happened. You may need to consult with someone, but you should address it. And there's also power in collective voice. Your peers may be going through similar experiences. And so if you find that that's happening, come together and figure out, okay, what is common amongst our stories and how can we bring this to our faculty members in a way that's not like, at least in my opinion, I'm looking at Kendall kind of because I don't know what he's going to say, but not in like a we want justice type of situation. I'm sorry, I'm cracking up. But no, for real. I mean, more not in like a, demand type of way, but coming at it like a collaborative piece of where it's like, I feel like I've been wronged. These are some of the shared themes amongst us as students, and here are some tangible solutions that we think that our school, our faculty, or program can enact to help us or to better support us. So coming to the table with even some solutions or some ideas, not again in a way where it's like the onus is on the victim to fix the situation. That's not what I'm saying, but more so on like, again, a collaborative approach to solving this problem so that you're not only making it better for you, but for the generations that are coming behind you. And Kendall, I'm just teasing you, but yeah.
And I agree with both of them. I would say, in particular, just find a medium that you're comfortable with advocating for diversity and inclusion, because I know depending on your program's climate or the university's climate, but also finding someone you think who would support you, like Kendall said, but depending on the climate, just finding the medium that you're most comfortable with, whether it's an anonymous form, through a trusted advisor, SASP. So I know you mentioned SASP earlier, but it's a student-led organization. So just building numbers and support, seeing if anybody experienced what you have experienced, and like Jhanelle said, putting it or presenting it in such a way where it's not like, we want justice, I demand this, I've been wronged, and all of those type of things. So that would be my recommendation.
I agree with everything that everybody said. I'll just add like even use outside resources of your program. Maybe if you are a Black student, maybe the Black Caucus, or like if you feel like it was something inside your identity, if you're LGBTQ, like go outside, look for outside resources that can help you in that situation.
Can you hear me? Can you see me?
Yes and yes.
Okay, thank you. Those are all really great strategies. I'll also add that sometimes you get into a program and you find that it's not the best fit for you, and it's always okay to leave. I think sometimes we feel that we need to stay somewhere because it's been so monumental to get into this program, right? And because you got in there, you'll probably get in somewhere else. But I find a lot of, like me and a lot of my colleagues, constantly ask the question sometimes, like, is the trauma worth it, right? And so um, you can fight these battles with like a better personal mental health at a different place, right? So they don't always have to be the spaces that you are supposed to be learning. You're supposed to be able to be your best self. That's Although the world, as Black people, we deal with these things. Um, those are not good conditions for learning, right? And we know that for children, and so we shouldn't expect those to be good conditions for learning for ourselves. So it's just another nugget. I know it's usually a very 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 last resort, but it's okay to leave, and it doesn't mean you're not going to finish. It just means you go to a different space and you continue your work elsewhere, right? So I don't want us to stigmatize leaving because I think we have. And sometimes it's just those places don't water you and you go somewhere else that will. All right. Anybody else want to add anything? Okay. So our last question, and we're getting close to 8 o'clock. Well, Eastern, I'm on the East Coast. So our last question is, can you just share your perspective on the importance of mentorship and support networks for Black grad students? Y'all did talk a little bit about them earlier, and how in the past there really weren't a lot of mentorship spaces, I should say. So can you talk a little bit about that some more, and then offer advice to other grad students, potential grad students, on how to really leverage those relationships effectively?
For me, it has been looking at the research that I'm doing and searching for example, Dr. Desiree Vega, she graduated from OSU, and we have a very similar background. And I saw her research focus, and I was just like, "Hi, how are you? I'm Alanis. I would love to talk to you," because I really like to have those bonds. I try to have that initiative to look for that. I know that not that many people have that, so my advice would be, if you feel like you want to and you have that mentality and you're like, yes, let's go for this, do it. Honestly, the worst they can say is, no, I cannot work with you, or I don't think any professor is going to be like, no, I don't like you. So, like, just be like, hey, I would love to connect, or another student that you know that's doing the same work that you are. Or I talked about other fields, like if you know another person, it's in another field. I feel like at I think at NAS they talked about like that, the transdisciplinary focus. So look for other people in higher education, or look for other people in school counseling. We have a lot of things in common. So like talk to them and just build a relationship through that, through research, or through asking like, hey, how did you navigate? Like for example, I said Dr. Desiree Vega. I even asked her like, how did you navigate OSU being Afro Latina? Like, how do you feel about that? So like look for those types of resources, and yeah, that would be my piece.
Well, I want to shout out my mentor, Dr. LaSalle Finley. I'm not even sure how it happened. It felt like it happened organically. It wasn't a like official conversation. Hey, can you be my mentor? Hey, do you want a mentor? It was, I know at one point we had faculty search at Georgia State, and she was doing a job talk. And I dropped, and I was like, hey, I'm doing school climate on Black girls. And I know that was her research generally around school climate. And, eventually she came on to Georgia State. And at some point later on in the future, she, invited me onto her team to help with some research stuff. And then since then, I just think we've been forming a really good relationship. And she's been helping me try to figure out my trajectory and, where I want to go. I have 2 years left in my program. Like, what does that look like? And trying to create opportunities for me to get the things that I need to bolster my CV to, achieve my goals. So, and outside of that, I mean, there's the professional, what you need to do, but also just me as a Black woman, and all that I have on my plate, like that part. Down to just like how you present yourself. Like, she wants to make sure like you are presenting yourself in your best light no matter where you go. So it's not just okay, make sure you have your research, number of publications, it's like a complete package. And she also like talks to us about, the things that people don't talk to you about, the ins and outs of our field and the information that people are like, oh, I don't know if I want to share that, just so that we have a realistic sense of what we're getting into. And her support has been invaluable to me as I try to figure this out. So I guess my one recommendation would be, my recommendation has been the same all night, about using your voice and just telling your story any chance that you get, because you may be planting a seed one day and that waters into something the next time you meet or have an interaction with a person. So just continuing to use your voice, find your voice, and amplify your voice.
I would say that mentorship and support networks are vital, especially for first generation students. Oop.
Sorry.
Can y'all hear me?
You just came in, but Zion was talking.
Sorry, go ahead. It's the lag on my end too. Okay, go ahead, Zion.
Okay, I was just saying how I thought mentorship and support networks are vital, especially for first generation students, whether it's just to graduate school, doctoral, whatever. In particular, I feel like the support network that y'all have set up, so BSPN through the graduate students, has really benefited me a lot. So I'm very thankful for it. I'm very thankful for Kendell, because I talk about this conversation all the time, but I had a conversation with Dr. Barrett, I want to say at the beginning of this year, and I found myself in a tough space in school, because I necessarily was not aware of a lot of things that was happening within my program. And it felt like I should have knew. It felt like I was behind. It was just tying into imposter syndrome. Like, it just was a lot going on. And we had that discussion, and he was just basically saying it's a hidden curriculum. Like, these are things that are like the unspoken rules, the unspoken expectations of graduate school or of academia. So I feel like that conversation right there, just having that mentorship, really it gave me a peace of mind. And then I feel like another aspect of mentorship is just representation, and how representation can foster inspiration. So recently I've created my social media pages for school psychology, and I feel like that has really exposed me to a lot of Black professionals in our field and in fields related to us, and just seeing that we could be successful in various settings. So whether it's schools, clinics, academia, content creation, whatever it may be, that there are spaces for us to succeed. Like that's my main thing. So my recommendation would definitely be to be in support networks and do find mentorship.
I love everything that's been said so far. I think the answer is in our responses, like the learning that you get from these mentors, learning what a hidden curriculum is from Charles Barrett, learning from Byron McClure about restorative practices and hack deficit thinking and the importance of strength-based approaches, right? These keys are things that some, maybe most professors don't have. And so we're able to connect those things to our curricula, right? And these things advance us in our educational experiences because we have these insights from people who have been doing it from X amount of time, right? And so, in regards to building and leveraging these relationships, the simplest way to answer that is to communicate with these people, right? Be in continual communication. So, when we're going through difficulties in our programs, these mentors have been there before. So conversing with them and learning, oh, it's the hidden curriculum, right? These are microaggressive approaches that certain people take, and this is how you overcome, right? They're giving us keys to help us navigate where we're going. So that's why it's important.
Okay, y'all can hear me and see me? Okay, I'm just going to keep checking in because
Check.
I don't want to cut anyone off, but that's all of our questions for the night. So these were beautiful answers, and I really appreciated all of y'all's experiences and your perspectives. I also think there was a little healing done on this call, just being able to share your experience. I hope that, and I'm quite sure that grad students watching and prospective grad students are also going to find this information very, 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 very valuable. So thank you for your time. Before we wrap up, we just have a few updates. So like I said at the beginning, we had our first annual Black School Site Summit in April this year, and our next one is next year, April 25th and 26th in Atlanta, Georgia. October 31st is the deadline for your poster proposal submissions, anything you want to submit. October 31st, okay? And go to our website at www.bspninc.com. Also follow us on all social media platforms at the Black SPS. Also on Monday, we will be having a conversation with folks from the Association of Black Psychologists, ABPSI, during the Creating Zola Mondays, and that's at 1 p.m. Eastern on Monday, and it'll be a YouTube live as well. So you can go to our website, not our website, our Instagram, and you can see the poster. You can also go to the ABPSI's Instagram and see the poster as well. And then next Thursday is our next grad student support group. So be sure to register. Registration is free. I'm a guest. Yay. And so is Dr. Aileen Milford. She's also a co-founder and the director of marketing for BSPN. And we're going to be speaking, talking, having conversation next Thursday out to Kendell if you have any questions. And that's his email, student at bspninc.com. So that's all of the housekeeping updates and everything else. Thank you all again. And thanks for being patient with difficulties. And it was a beautiful, I can't wait to see what you all do. And I look forward to having y'all back. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having us. Go Panthers.